Nicolas Cage, good or bad? A challenge, certainly, but not unsolvable, because all actors have distinct values.
Now, I've been asking that question myself for the past decade or so, and it really did seem unsolvable. Sure, he's probably the biggest meme generator there is, actor-wise, but I always stood up for him because I know he's an extremely capable actor. I mean, you don't even have to go visit the classics to reassert that. Sure, he's made shit like Left Behind, but just the year before that, he also made Joe, and it was arguably the best male performance of that whole year. And it's things like these that starts the whole question all over again. So, in a way, he's really one of the most interesting actors of our generation, at least that's what I always felt. And then in the midst of all this little movie called Mandy happened, and I'm gonna say it, guys, Nicolas Cage was in fact the genius who'd been playing all of us this whole time. Mandy is and will stay as one of the best films of this whole year. It's a friggin' masterpiece. Deep in the wilderness of the Shadow Mountains in the year 1983, Red Miller lives in tranquility with his lover, the deceptively charming Mandy Blue. However, the life he has made for himself comes crashing down all of a sudden when a vile band of ravaging cult followers and supernatural creatures desecrate his home with vicious fury. A broken man, Red now lives for one thing only, to hunt down these maniac villains with vengeance. That's literally all there's with the story. Pretty simple narrative. Now, I caught this movie about a month ago at the Busan Film Festival, which is like the biggest genre film fest here in Korea, and I initially went into this with no information whatsoever. I did not realize that Mandy was getting all the near universal acclaim it's holding, had no clue who the filmmaker was, just saw the still where Nicolas Cage was covered in blood, about to go gonzo, and that really was all me and my friends needed for us to assume we were going to be entertained by yet another Nick Cage meme show. And I'm almost ashamed that we thought that, because literally 30 seconds into the film, I just knew this was something else. The opening shot is a gorgeous look upon the Shadow Mountains, and it opens with none other than Starless, the King Crimson track, which I just love. And it's a glorious match. The aura, the atmosphere is magnificent. I was already invested at this point, but then comes up the name of the composer, the recently deceased Johan Johansson. Like I said, I had no info about the film, so had no idea he was going to be responsible for the music. I don't know about you guys, but for me, Johan Johansson was the best film composer of this decade, no debate. And I was absolutely shocked when I heard of his passing, rest in peace. And it turns out that Mandy was one of the final pieces of music he composed. That alone is already something special right there. And then comes up the name of the filmmaker, Panos Cosmatos, and I remember thinking that I had heard that name before, and obviously, as I found out later on, it was because I had seen the filmmaker's previous work, Beyond the Black Rainbow, which, admittedly, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I did like it overall, because I'm a sucker for 80s B-movie influenced mise-en-scène, but I did find the film to be a bit too serious for me to get super into, although the ending is pretty hilarious. I would have liked it a lot more if the film knew how to play with its own absurdity, and because I mean it's possible for a film to laugh and make jokes at itself, but also be straight up serious and emotional at times. And this is exactly the point that Mandy excels in. Because let me tell you that this film is a cosmically nightmarish genre orgy. It's ridiculous, even hilarious at times, but at its heart, above everything else, Mandy is genuinely heartbreaking, and the one significant reason why is obviously Nicolas Cage. So there's a moment where the main character's whole life is ripped apart in front of his eyes, and this is when the filmmaker knocks the audience into Cage's head. And at first you feel sorry for him, as this is the obvious, logical, emotional reaction when you see something like this in a movie, but shortly after that there are these lengthy close-ups of Cage, where you can see the light literally go out of his eyes, as his initially overwhelmed mind just slowly burns into grief, and then straight onto an inexplainable degree of rage. And it's at this point where you stop feeling sorry for him and you start feeling sorry for yourself, because it feels as if you're no longer watching Nicolas Cage. It's like you, as the audience, are Nicolas Cage, and you're feeling his pain as him, not with him. But what's even more amazing is that this emotional bond with the character that the filmmaker ties in, it stays with you till the end. It actually strengthens over time when some of the most bizarre, nonsensical shit is going on in the final act of the film. For the sake of spoilers, I won't tell you exactly what goes on, but there is some serious comic gold in that final act, and to pull all that off and still be able to deliver these emotional gut punches without being even slightly devious or manipulative is a phenomenal feat, and that, in my opinion, is the way to achieve the perfect state, the perfect balance of being ridiculously crude and powerfully empathic at the same time. I feel like people might think that I'm going a bit overboard, raving about Nicolas Cage here, but I honestly don't think you can praise him enough, at least for this role, because I literally cannot think of any other actor on this planet who would have played this role as perfectly as he does. It's not just about the acting chops in this case, it has to do with the actor's past career, his reputation, and how the end product plays with these aspects. Finally, at last, Nicolas Cage has found a movie and a filmmaker willing to match, willing to play with fire, in this case his crazy gonzo reputation, and take it to the next level. This may sound like an absurd stretch, but to me it almost feels as if he starred in all those crazy, shitty productions and acted all crazy this past decade just for the sake of making Mandy work. Much like the filmmaker's debut film, Mandy's visuals and pacing are heavily influenced by the underground genre films from the 70s and 80s. The lighting is seductively retro-stylish with an excessive usage of the color red, and it matches the bloody tone of the film perfectly. An overusage of a single color is a rather dangerous territory for filmmakers, as it may look extremely tacky and monotonous if it's used in the wrong way, especially combined with the slow, hypnotic pace this film is going for. It's really a ballsy move to say the least, but what can I say, they pull it off. There's nothing really characteristic about the cinematography, as a large part of the gorgeous visuals comes from the lighting and the production design, but it does smoothly complement the narcotic tone and pace. And the music composed by the one and only Jóhann Jóhannsson does not disappoint. The score is mostly made up of the combination of Johansson's trademark ambience genre mixed with partial homages to the chilling electronic horror soundtracks of the 80s, and again, it fits the film perfectly. So everything's like I've said, the basic storyline does lie in a refined, almost too simple narrative, but when it's told in a style so consistent, so hypnotic, while it's obtaining some fantastically brutal and satisfying genre fun, and with the near-transcendent powerhouse performance from the lead, Mandy is impossible to resist. Sure, it's not for everyone, but for me, it is the surprise master touch of the year, hands down. And that wraps it up. Those are my thoughts on the film Mandy. As always, if you enjoyed/hated the review, like or dislike the video, subscribe, follow me on Instagram to tell me what I should review next, and I'll see you guys next time.